For most of Games Workshop's history, they have viewed themselves as a hobby company, a models company, and not a competitive gaming company. But I think that they certainly have a history of imbalancing the game with releasing new codices, releasing new models, all of that. They try to long-term adjust rules over the course of years, moving towards a new edition or something. Those books are coming out once every quarter, and that 3 months can be pretty miserable for especially competitive players. Or even just casual players when their friend's army suddenly becomes much harder to beat and not very fun. I think they unintentionally imbalance the game, and it drives sales. I think they certainly buff units and nerf units to drive sales. They will absolutely pick a unit that is underselling, and then when a new book comes out, they will push that model to be more powerful than other units in the book in order to move models that they haven't been selling. If a rule book is good, it will increase sales across that entire faction line, or sometimes just on specific models. If a certain model gets buffed, or a certain model gets nerfed, we'll both see a bunch of used ones come in when models get worse, and we will sell a bunch of new boxes of whatever got buffed. We see it basically with every codex release. Something comes out, some unit gets buffed that nobody had before because nobody was buying it, and then all of a sudden everybody's buying it and it's out of stock everywhere. The competitive crowd is the ones that tend to do the kind of chasing the new books, and the ones that we see those increased sales from. If a unit comes out that is really good in the meta, the competitive players will want to again buy 3 or 4 of those boxes, because you do have players that are demonstrably better than other players in a skill aspect, that are going to tournaments across the country and winning them consistently. We see the competitive players have kind of played enough games with these new units that we have data sets that we can pull from tournaments and use to establish, oh, this unit is getting played in 70% of this army, this unit is getting played in 10% of this army, and we can derive from that data to some degree what units are overperforming versus underperforming. But in the same vein, people might just be playing the unit because the general perception is that it's busted, and so we might be seeing that overrepresentation based entirely on the media coverage and the excitement about it rather than necessarily the rules. Most of it is based off of just kind of collected data of people speaking about it on various forms of media, people on websites that write articles about a new unit coming up, or people on Reddit just like, oh my god, this unit is so busted, and just kind of the general social reaction almost drives that point. But for the most part, people are going and reading articles, they're talking to their friends, they're taking the word of our competitive players or the competitive players across the world that are giving their opinions and are generally, you know, considered the experts in their field because they are the competitive players. In the same way, you know, the players are taking these people at their word, we are also kind of having to take them at their word, knowing that that's going to influence what people are going to buy. And that's just always a hard gamble, but that's just part of the industry and part of retail in general, is you kind of have to make bets and hope they play out. Our competitive community is actually probably a bit larger than most areas based on our size and how often we run events. So I would say we trend towards the higher percentages of competitive players, and I would say our competitive players are probably 25, maybe 30% of our crowd. We have good data for the competitive players that are showing up to every event because we can track how often they show up to every event. But if I were just guessing, probably in the range of like 50 to 75. But the casual players aren't showing up to our events. We don't have their names logged for that data. They're coming in, they're buying a model, they're going home, they're painting it. Most people play 40K non-competitively. They play casually, they play with their friends, they come in, they hang out, they get a game, they roll their dice, they put their pretty painted models on the table, and that's all they're looking for. For competitive players, I think often the more important aspect is how many people are playing the game, and how many people they could expect to go and see at a tournament. Because a big part of competitive 40K, at least to my perception, is that environment of going to a big tournament with a ton of tables, a ton of people playing, seeing a ton of armies, and just, again, the scale of it. Games Workshop's been around for 40 years or so at this point, and so they have a very long-standing, loyal customer base that want to play Warhammer because they know Warhammer and because they know people are playing Warhammer.